Dick is going to be doing the management of things, like he's checking people in right now to make sure we don't have any bombers. But I don't think it's going to be necessary for you to raise your hand to speak. I think people can politely speak about somebody's work.
Why not talk about chat too, Don?
Yeah, I'll get there. I'm waiting for a few more people. We're getting there. So you might see a little red dot in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. Well, let me turn it on because I am going to record this. And you can see at the top left-hand side of your screen, it should say recording, or you should see a little red dot up there. Just so you know. The other thing is at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat button. If you want to leave a comment about a photographer, your name will automatically be the person who commented. You might want to mention the photographer's name. At the end of the session, I will show you how you can save the chat, and you can go back and look at it afterwards if you want to. You can also ask a question via chat as well. Dick will be monitoring the chat line, so he'll direct me or whatever. I don't know how many people. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 25 people. Oh, I see. That's the most I'm going to see is 25 people. Then there's a second screen I can go to. Well, I think I'll start. It's just a few minutes after 7, but I'm Don Mangus. You might see me in your screen. I'm one of the partners at Image City. There are other Image City partners in here somewhere. I saw Sheridan come in. Dick is here. Luann is in here. I'm not sure who else, but welcome to Image City's virtual reception. This is the biggest one we've had because we've had a lot of photographers who are showing in the show. All of you folks. So we're gonna look at all your work. I made a PowerPoint slide so that we can run through it alphabetically, and I will just introduce each person and then they can speak about their work. Anybody that wants to say something can just shout it out. Like I said earlier, you might not have been on when I said it, but you don't have to unmute yourself to say something. At least not through the unmute button. You can hold your space bar down and it will unmute you, and you can speak while you're holding your space bar down. And then when you're done, you can let it go and you're back muted. At least that's been working fine for everyone I've known so far. If you have a cell phone or an iPad or some kind of a device like that, it may not work. So before we get started, in most large gatherings like this, we would tell people where the emergency exits are and where the bathrooms are, but I think you guys all know where those are in your house, so we don't need to bother with that part. But we at Image City, especially because of COVID, really appreciate you guys keeping us afloat and keeping us current. We're plugging along, and we are actually gonna survive this thing. After 15 years, we're not gonna let something like COVID shut us down. So thank you all for your support. So let me share a screen with you. And hopefully this will work right. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Oh, you're muted.
Yep.
Yes.
It's okay. You can see it, I'm sure, because I see it.
Yeah.
I see the green line around it. So this was the card. You may have seen them at the gallery when you came in to drop off your photos or when you stopped in. I really urge any of you to stop in. We keep the attendance down to 5 or 6 people at one time, and people spread out, so it's safe to be in the gallery. We clean it twice a day while we're open. So far, we know of no one that's gotten COVID from us or from our gallery. So, okay. Oops. That's not good. There we go. Wondering why there we go. Okay. I got to get rid of this at the top. Hang on, I want to get rid of the message here and make sure it still works. Dick, can you see to admit, still see to admit?
We don't, Don.
We'll find out. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good.
Bob Welsh, you have a question? Your hand is up. That's why I'm asking.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay. So this is our virtual reception, and we'll start, like I said, alphabetically. So the first person up is, I don't know why my mouse button is doing this on me. Jason Abel. So Jason's here. This is his photo called Angels at Mount Hope. Jason, you want to say a few words?
Oh, I'll try and keep it brief as I'm not much of a public speaker, but it's pretty much Mount Hope has become one of my favorite spots to take pictures in, and happen to be the right spot, the right time, and you see what I got.
Very nice. The light's very nice.
Thank you. I didn't even have to adjust any of the settings or anything. Like I said, I just happened to turn around and see this, and figured why not. And this is all of the angles that I shot. This is probably the best one. At least to me, this is my favorite one. Just the other ones didn't quite capture the lighting that I wanted.
It's great. It's beautiful. I'm going to keep moving unless if somebody has something to say. So don't be shy to sing out, people.
I love the contrast with the dark background.
Okay, you got to be a little quicker, Carlos. Sorry about that. Let me see if I can go back. There we go. Well, thank you for that. I think you're right. It does. Like I said, the light is really nice on this. Okay, Ron Andrews here.
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Hey, Ron.
I've enjoyed, I've been watching the sky since I was a little kid, and I visit astronomical observatories when I get a chance, and I enjoy taking pictures. One of the things that's kind of easy, you don't need a telescope for, is the Milky Way. In fact, a wide angle lens works pretty well for this. This is a single shot, 30-second exposure. It's f2.8 with a 28 millimeter lens. I believe it was ISO 1600. The lighting in the foreground is completely fortuitous. I picked out a lonely country road, but a car drove by, or actually was approaching it about towards the end of my 30-second exposure here to light up the cornfield in the foreground. So it provides a little extra interest.
So Ron, you've done these astro photographs before?
Well, in terms of the Milky Way, the first one I really did was 2019. And then I started looking into, well, what's the best time of year? And okay, the center of the Milky Way is in the constellation Sagittarius, and the middle of the summer is the best time for that. So I started, and then I quickly realized you got to get out of Rochester to be able to see it too, and you need clear skies. Though I found a couple nights this past summer that were pretty good.
How long do you have to have your shutter open to see that the stars have moved, like the Earth has turned?
Well, this is a 30-second exposure, and if you bury your nose on it, you will see that the small stars are not pinpoints; they're short lines.
Oh, okay.
So in 30 seconds, that's kind of marginal. You're starting to see star trails.
Okay.
There's a formula for that escapes my brain right now.
500 rule.
500 over focal length, right?
It's called 500 rule. You divide the focal length into 500, and that's your exposure limit.
Okay.
But you'll actually begin to see star trails even with 500. I use about a 200, 300 rule. I try to keep my exposures 8 seconds, even with a 24 millimeter lens. But I want to ask Ron, where was this taken? How far out of Rochester do you have to get that clear of a sky?
This was on Route 14A. It's between Canandaigua and Seneca Lake. It's a little south of the town of Hall. That's the lights of Penn Yan in the distance. The other time I went down to the north end of Hemlock Lake. That is a pretty good location because you won't have, unless you really want the cars driving by, you won't have other cars driving by, and there's next to no development on Hemlock Lake. So it's a dark environment.
Hey guys, Vanna's telling me I have to move on. So if you have any other questions for Ron, put it in the chat room and he'll get back to you.
No.
Thank you, Ron.
Great.
Thanks, Ron. Good shot.
Mr. Beery.
Hi, these are bat-eared foxes, and these were taken in 2017, January to February, when I was on a Tanzania photo safari with Ted Gustafson out of Chicago and Melissa Groove out of the Ithaca area. And it's probably about 100% crop, and the foxes were playing with each other. When you actually see the photo in the gallery at Image City, the foxes are probably bigger than what they are. This was with probably my 150 to 600 lens at about 600 and a crop sensor, and then I cropped at 100% after that.
Wow.
So vignetted the corners a little bit, sharpened it up so their fur showed.
Yeah, it's nice.
Very nice.
Sarah, are you here? Sarah had, I think, 3 photos of dogs doing different events, but if she's not here, I'll have to move on. Sarah? Nope.
Wow. I had questions about that, but maybe we'll find out later.
Okay. And that's pretty sharp, pretty good freeze. It's like the dog's coming right at you.
What I was going to ask is, did she leave the camera in continuous focus mode?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, how'd she focus?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Again, if you leave that in the chat room, we'll be sending that out to folks so she will get back to you.
Okay.
This was one of my favorite photos of the show. I like street photography. I know Megan's here. Tell us about how you got this, Megan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this was taken actually in 2016. I was living in Connecticut at the time, and I did a street photography project I called 52 Magic Mondays, where I took the train into New York City 52 Mondays in a row to do street photography. So this one was taken in October. I believe it was actually on Halloween, even though it has nothing to do with Halloween, but I like the Joker. And by this point, I was, 10 months into the project, and so I was quite skilled with my street photography and quite fast. And I just loved this girl with her head in her lap.
Yeah.
And so I shot this because by this time I was shooting a lot just right from like chest area. I had my camera. I wasn't putting the camera to my face at all. And I shot one image because I noticed that the blonde girl kind of looked at me, and I knew the moment was going to be passing really quickly. And so it was a one and done shot, and I just loved it. Do I wish I got the whole Joker face? Maybe, but I kind of do like that you don't see the girl's face and you're only seeing half the Joker's face. So it all worked to me, and I like that she made eye contact with me too.
Yeah. All 4 of those people are doing something different.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Personally, the fact that the Joker's face is cut off, I think, makes the photos. It does for me.
Yeah, it did for me too. So I liked the moment, and like I said, I only took the one image because I knew as soon as someone else looked up, it just wasn't going to be the same.
Right. Yeah. Good job. It's real cool. Anybody else have something to say?
Megan?
Does anyone else have something they want to offer?
Megan?
Megan.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to ask your technique, because I wander around New York too with my camera holding from my neck. Do you have it an autofocus, wide angle, and you shoot wide and then you can crop it and straighten it later, or do you do something different?
So I shoot with the Olympus, the Micro Four Thirds, so I have a pretty small camera. A 12 to 40 lens was mainly the lens I used during the year-long project, although I played with other ones, which is a 24 to 80 equivalent. Shot pretty wide most of the time, and shot mainly in shutter priority, trying to keep my shutter at, 250, even 400, because I'm not the type of street photographer that stops and waits for stuff. I'm walking the whole time. Like I'm kind of moving as I go. So a fast shutter lets me just be really quick and just keep going.
Thank you.
I can't imagine how many photos you had to look through each time you came back.
Yeah, usually around 900,
Yeah, right.
and maybe
Megan,
50 to 60 would go on the blog.
Megan, this is Tom. Did these people say anything to you before or after the photo?
Nope. And really, throughout the whole year-long project, very few people talk to me. It's New York City, so people are used to having their pictures taken in a way. I smile, I'm friendly, I'm quick. A lot of times, like I said, I didn't even put I don't put the camera to my eye, so people don't even really realize I'm shooting.
You feel if you ask for permission ahead of time, it's just not going to work out.
Well, then the moment's gone.
That's kind of what I thought.
Thank you, Megan. We're going to move on.
Okay, one real quick. This is Steve. Shooting with my old film cameras, I have found that a twin lens reflex is much less off-putting because the camera is down. I can still look at it, but my camera is down on my waist instead of up at my eye like a gun.
That's
Yeah.
true. Chris Cummings here.
Nice.
Chris is not here. Okay, that's fine. This is his still life shot. I know Elena's here.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, it took me a minute to unmute myself.
Not a problem.
Yeah, so I chose to talk about this image called Helianthus gloria, and it is actually one out of the series, and I've done several series now on photographing dry flowers, and this is my second series of sunflowers. In particular, when they dry out, they have a really, really nice look to them, and this one was very interesting. So I chose this image in part because it was my proud moment of 2020. The series received honorable mention in International HD Photography Awards. So to me, that was meaningful, but also because this is probably my favorite image of the year. The way the flower was positioned, the way the leaves were formed after they dried out, to me, it was very, very special. And overall, I enjoy photographing dry flowers, plants after they've passed their glorious moments of blooms. And to me, that beauty is really the different kind of beauty that I truly enjoy. It was shot with a daylight, just light from my window with a plain black background. And then I processed it in Lightroom. I use Lightroom for my processing.
So you have a photo ready for our next assignment already.
Yeah, except I have to take a new one.
Elena's in the Image City Critique Group that meets the first Wednesday of each month. So we do assignments, and our assignment was dramatic lighting. So she's on her way for sure. Very nice photo. Excellent. Well done. I don't know why. There we go. Is Philip here?
I'm here. This was taken February last year, just before we went into lockdown. This guy's a trainer at the gym I go to, and one night in the class he laid down to show us the move we had to make, and I saw this image in my head, and I approached him later and I said, you know, I'd really like to do a photo shoot with you. And in that time I found out that he was training to do his bodybuilding shows, and he was not completely there yet, but this is what he was. This was with a Canon 6D 135 millimeter prime, and I had two soft boxes, one on either side, left and right. And like others, this is probably my favorite of this year.
Very nice, Philip. I was afraid the file was going to be too small. I couldn't make it as big as it needed to be, but it actually turned out pretty good.
Looks good, yeah.
Yeah, very nice. Did a good job with the lighting. It's even.
The shadows turned out really good. The muscle definition is there.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Bonnie? I saw Bonnie. I know she's here.
I am there. I
There
just
she is.
unmuted. So this is, so often we just connect with our photos because we think about who we were with and what we were doing. And this is one of those. It's called California Wolf Moon because last January I was in California. Seems like it was forever ago, doesn't it? Poof, when we could travel. So I was at my son's house and he's interested in photography as well. And so we knew the full moon was coming. And we didn't know exactly what it was going to be. So we took off and went to the school ground where it was wide open and we had more of a view. Couldn't see anything. So we went back in the back of the school and it was this little area where the dumpster was and, and darn, there's the moon coming up. So on a tripod with my Sony with an integrated lens, it's integrated, it's 24 to 600. So I was out about 500 for this. So it mostly is as you see it. I cropped in a little bit. I did take it into Topaz just to add a little bit of layering to it. But that's it.
It's very interesting, Bonnie. Is there a reason they call it a wolf moon?
No, I think, all the moons in the months, of the different months have names to them.
Oh, okay.
And this, maybe the wolves need to howl more. I don't know.
Thank you for sharing. It's great.
Thank you.
Is Josh here?
I am.
Cool.
So this was taken years ago, actually, when I was in Italy, in Pompeii, as you can tell. And I was doing a kind of tour of the city, walking down the main strip, and you're seeing alley after alleyway, and it finally got to one, and there's just this, it's actually a water tower, ancient water tower, just straight down the alley with this beautiful tree just right behind it. And so I had to grab the image. I really love the contrast between old and new. You're looking at this structure that's over 2,000 years old and this tree less than 100 years old blooming behind it. It was just a beautiful sight to capture. And so when I edited, I really wanted to focus on that and really try and bring out the new life behind it that's kind of arising from this ancient scene.
Cool. I like the idea behind that. So you decided to do some selective color here, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Carlos.
I am
I told
here.
Carlos when I saw this, I really like this photo a lot because you don't usually see Monument Valley taken like this. Everybody wants that crisp, clear shot, but I like this a lot.
Well, it's the fortune of being when we were there. This is last January. I went to Arizona and Utah with two friends from the Nature Photography Meetup group. And when we arrived in Kayenta near Monument Valley, we went to the park for sunset, and you could probably just see 50 feet in front of you. You could see nothing. So we tried it the next morning for sunrise, and when we got there, you still couldn't see anything, but other than it was really cold, we figured no sense leaving, hang around, and it finally cleared a little bit just before sunrise. I shot this at, I wanted slow shutter speed, so I shot it at f/22 at ISO 100, and it's not too processed at all. I think I dialed up saturation just one click to match what I remember.
Yeah, I like the tonality of it. I think it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I had a different composition. If you pan to the right, that included the sun. That was still, it was still not super bright because of through the fog, but I like this composition without the sun better.
Yeah, you can tell where the sun is, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for this one. It's great.
Thanks.
Stephen, you're here. I saw you somewhere.
Yeah, I'm right here. 2 years ago, I was going on a round the world trip, and this is in Colombo, Sri Lanka. I decided to spend my night kind of walking around, or one evening late, around 4 or 5 o'clock, because I knew the light was going to be kind of nice, and I stumbled across this this image, and this woman kind of landed there like a bird, just sort of, you know, on the wire. And I wanted to hurry up and take a photo, but I had about 3 or 4 that were much further back, and I just kept on kind of creeping up closer and closer. And about the 3rd time, she turned around and she saw me, and I just kind of smiled at her and kind of held up my camera, and she smiled back, and she just kind of turned towards the light, and I moved a little bit closer, and I took this. And the interesting thing was that when I came home and I started to sort of edit and go through all my photos, this one, I don't know if it was in my first batch of interesting photos, but when it came out, I kept on working on it. I worked on it for a very long time, and I was very dissatisfied for a long period of time, and I didn't know why. And then 2 days ago, I discovered there's a Edward Hopper painting right here. I don't know if it shows up very well, but it's called New York Office. And if you look at the details of it, I somehow kind of captured the same image, but from the outside, sort of inside out. The woman in the Hopper painting is inside of an office, and this woman had just left an office. So it's and it just kind of, you know, I just stumbled upon it 2 days ago, and I was sort of taken aback because it has the same architectural features and a lot of the same angles of shading.
Well, Dennis, you know that we talked about this before. Stephen won one of the awards last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we, at least I remarked then, and I remark now that I see Dennis Hopper in his work. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with the tonalities of how you process these things, but it's very nice.
Thank you. But if you look at the, if you find New York Office and you just reference it, you just kind of compare the two. I think somehow I saw that it was like a subconscious image in my mind, and somehow I think I happened to catch it. So
you did a great job.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful image. I really like it.
Thank you.
Mike's here. I saw him.
Yep, here. Well, I have a affection for odd places. Chaco Canyon National Park is northern New Mexico, about 70 miles from the nearest town, down 30 miles of bad road, and no accommodation. So everybody who's there is serious about wanting to be there. There's a huge number of ruins in the region dating back to the period between about 850 and 1250, what would loosely be called Anasazi cultures. This is one of the big ones called Pueblo Bonito, and there are a lot of pictures available in Pueblo Bonito. This is just one of them. Took it on a Nikon 750 with their what you would call their 24 to 120 kit lens, but it's good walking around lens. At 11:30 in the morning. So
oh man,
the issues in processing it are the color of the walls, because that orange is in there, but at 12:30 or 11:30 in the morning, it's kind of a brown adobe. So you got to bring the color out, and then the other issue is conveying the sense of depth through those rooms. I had hoped to go back last summer because there's a lot more shooting to be done, and do it sometime other than in July when it's even at 6,000 feet, it's bloody hot.
Right.
I have a question there. What caused the highlights in that archway? How did that come about?
The highlights are there from, actually I took out, there's a wall down in the first room on the right-hand side, and there's sun shining through that. I took that blown out section off the floor, but the light is reflecting back up into that, the top of that lintel.
Up in here.
Yeah, right.
Don, I just wanted to, let everybody know that Avi put up a link for the picture that Stephen was talking about. For those of you not used to chat, it's down on the lower portion of the screen, and if you click it, you'll see the sidebar, or it'll pop up for you.
And
Thank you,
I'm gonna save it later, and I can send it to, I'll give it to you, Dick, and you can send it out to everybody.
Okay, great.
I'll save the whole chat stream. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you showing the work.
Yep.
Here's Mr. Healy.
Hey, good evening, everyone. As I begin, I just want to thank Don and Dick and all the partners for putting together tonight's presentation. It's quite unique because typically when we're at the show, while we get around, we don't get to hear everybody and talk to everybody. And this is a wonderful venue, and hats off to you guys for coming together with this and a great participation with everyone.
Thank you, Rich.
Agreed.
Thank you.
So this is the third year that I have been a part of this show, and Explosion. So it was taken towards the end of March when we were all at home, and I was, a lot of places on Facebook and places with photographers who I follow were offering short tutorials to do various kinds of projects. And this is one I've failed miserably on my own. And so through Adorama TV and Gavin Hoovey, for those of you who are familiar with him, I kind of followed along with him and got some great ideas for a technique to make this happen. What I like about this particular piece is both the simplicity and the complexity of it. You have two different colors, well, maybe three, I guess, and two details here, two elements. And so that's the simplicity of it. But the complexity, when you look at how the water is exploding out of the glass and the shapes and the form that it makes, and then it just explodes into the different droplets and right out of the view of the camera. So you have a little bit of imagination there. The settings, 50 millimeter lens, speed of 1/250th of a second, f11 so that I could really zero in on the focus. And I used two gels or two flashes at 90-degree angle with a red gel and a green gel. If I were to do this differently, I probably would do two things different. Number one, I would have had a whole lot more towels around the kitchen where I made this from. Probably one of them. And the other is, as I look at this, I think I threw in an ice cube in there. But I wonder, it might look a little bit nicer if I threw in a strawberry with the redness, or possibly green to go with the green in there. So that might be something different. And then I also thought, wouldn't it be cool if I had a martini glass there and I threw in an olive, and maybe it wouldn't have quite the same action, but hopefully get some of the water to drip out of the side of the glass to give it a nice story to it.
Sounds like you got something to do this winter.
There you go.
How many times did you throw that ice cube before you actually got it in the cup?
Well, getting in the cup wasn't too bad, but it was the timing of everything, getting it just the right timing. But yeah, I probably have maybe 20 or 30 pictures of all various stages of it.
It's really cool. Hang on one sec. I gotta send a quick message out. Okay. Thanks, Rich. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Great. Thank you, Don.
And the story. That's fun. Thanks. John here? John Heft? Okay, I'll move on. Maybe he'll pop up. Is Stephanie here?
Okay, yes, I'm here. Yeah, this is called Hair, and I took this about 5 years ago in Cornhill. I was a photographer for the Cornhill Gazette, and I used to walk around the streets a lot and look around, and I saw this woman with this beautifully textured hair in front of me with the sunlight coming down, and I took a shot. And basically, that's it for this particular picture.
Stephanie reminds me of Cousin It from the Addams Family.
Yes. It does, doesn't it?
For you folks who don't know, Betsy Phillips is the one who arranges all the photographs in the show. And if you see where this one is and the one that's above it, they play off of each other perfectly. Have you seen them in the show, Stephanie?
I have not yet.
You should stop into the gallery because she has a really good eye for pairing up photos, and she's paired this up with something really nice.
Great.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
Scott here.
No, I don't think he said he might be late or he might not be able to come. He had something else that came up.
We're going to go back and circle around to a few people who have shown up late, so if we can do it easily enough. I'm wondering why he calls this vintage cars. I would have called it vintage trucks. That's what I wanted to ask him, why he did that. Not a big deal, I guess, but it's cool. It's an HDR-ish image, which I'm kind of fond of. Gino, he's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
I know the story behind this photograph. Why don't you tell everybody?
Well, I was wondering what it would like to put all the seasons in one photograph. So I went to Highland Park and I used my trusty 50-year-old 35mm lens, and I staked out some areas and I photographed the scenery, and then I photographed the place where the camera was so I can come back in different seasons. So I started in the winter and I shot through the whole thing, finishing up last summer. And then I found out that fall, winter, and spring images are more photogenic than summer, so I didn't use a summer. So this picture contains 3 seasons, winter, spring, and summer. And then I tried to match the best I could. And then I sort of hung around and waited till somebody shows up so I can put a little human element in there.
Very cool.
The assembly took a little time, and basically the most problem was try to get an aesthetic combination of the seasons. Rather than making a record, I was trying to be poetic about it.
So have you thought of what you could call this season?
I have several names from it, but what ended up to be altered landscapes.
Altered landscapes. Cool.
I have
Pretty
about
neat.
6 of them.
Thank you, Gino.
6 different scenes, and this is one of them.
Appreciate it a lot. Thank you. Is Walter here? You guys know that in this show we gave out $350 awards. 2 of them were selected by the partners, and this was one of the partner selected photos. Walter's has shown a few times in the gallery, and his work is pretty interesting. Here he is.
Can you hear me, Don?
I can hear you. Go.
All right. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the award. And the next thing I would say about these images that I'm working on this, that I have a love of color, really intense, rich color, and I also consider myself first and foremost a landscape photographer, but I also love the abstract, and I have to admit that when I'm searching abstract imagery, that I tend to see landscapes in the subject matter. So in this case, I sort of saw like a river cascading down, and maybe it's well, I call it the river of gold, and maybe it's the light from, from the setting sun that that's causing the color. But when I decided on a name, the name River of Gold came to me, and just for kicks, I did a search on River of Gold, and it seems as though there was a river called Pishon, Pyshon, that existed in the Garden of Eden. So I thought that was just a really strange coincidence. But let's see, this is actually part of an ongoing series that I'm working on that I call A Stranger in a Strange Land. And because I'm seeing the landscapes and of course these, because of the abstraction, they're certainly not typical of landscapes. So, but in reality, I'm taking pictures of paint that's maybe scraped or flaking off of rusted metal, and that's what's producing the textures. And I started shooting these with like a 24-70 lens that could focus pretty close. But after a while, I realized that I needed more of a macro lens because I was seeing actually even smaller interesting subject matter. So I got a 90mm macro lens, and let's see now. And I also use HDR capture techniques because I figure that more data is better than less data. So it just gives me more information to work with. The other thing I do is when I'm working on these images, I play around a lot with white balance. Like I might start off with the daylight, but I experiment just to see what happens to the colors, and then when I find something I like, I stick with it. And I also experiment with aspect ratios too, because these abstract pictures, I can shorten them, I can lengthen them, I can do it, whatever I want, so that the effect is as pleasing to me.
Oops, sorry, my fault.
Okay, and
Walter.
Yeah.
Steve Levinson. I really like this picture, and as you're playing with it, do you rotate the picture like 90 degrees and 180
that's
degrees
very
to
interesting.
see what else you?
Yeah, not in this case, but I have done that, and generally speaking, like in a couple of situations, I've actually rotated the image 180 degrees, and I was very happy with how it turned out. So that ended up being how I finally printed the image. But in this case, this was as I shot it. The other thing I do is that, because of the abstract nature, I'm not really exactly sure how I'm going to finally crop the image. So what I do is I over capture. Like I've got my camera, on a rail, and I slide the camera and take multiple exposures that I stitch together later, or and I also go vertically simply by raising the column on the tripod, and quite often capture mosaics. I'm actually, so some of these images are actually quite large. Let's see, but the other thing I would ask is that, like it's easy to get caught up in looking at it and saying, well, geez, what the heck is that, but I would urge the viewer to maybe step back and take a broader perspective and just look at it and see what with the viewer sees in it. You know, because of the abstract nature, chances are two people aren't going to see the same thing.
I'll have to say that this is one of those times where the picture that you see on the screen is not as good as the picture that's in the gallery. So you guys got to stop in the gallery and take a look at Walter's work. It's really good. Thank you, Walter.
All right, Don, thanks.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Dan, are you here? Dan going once. Okay. Maybe he'll show up later. This is Tom Canalson's picture. He's been speaking a few times, commenting on other people's work. This was one of the other award winners that the gallery partners picked up. And if you come into the gallery, this is straight down at the end of the hallway. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yeah, that's a studio shot, of course. And studio shots are very unique. They're made up. They're nothing casual about it at all. That shot was done with 4 speed lights, one behind, one on each side, and then one in front of her. The trick was not to light up her face, but still light up the lower part over there. The lights were very, very close. They were dialed way down. In fact, you all know what a speed light is, one of these things. Normally I don't use them in the studio, but in this case I did because the umbrellas and soft boxes were all too bright. Spread was way too much. These lights were really, really directed, focused in. I think we took about 120 shots in about 2 hours. She had a light stand behind her head with a little pillow on it to park her head there because she'd go in and out of depth of field. That was at f11, but she'd still go in and out real quick. Camera was on a tripod. Of course, with the flash, I shot at 1/25th, but it's irrelevant because it was all done with strobe.
Right.
The only
I
problem.
like that you captured that little tiny bit of light on her nose.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that actually came about. I think the light on the right side, as you look at it, must have been a little more forward and got under the hat.
Well, I think it was fortuitous. It gives some definition to the middle there, and we know what it is, and that allows us to see the eyes and the mouth, even though they're not there.
Well, it does, and the other shots had various, levels of that, where there was either more or less, and you picked this one because of just the balance of light. There wasn't much done to this shot, meaning in post. It was pretty much all done in the taking of the shot. The other hard part was to get the black hat to contrast off the black background,
right,
to get enough texture in the hat to have that edge. So, but this girl, she's a good model. She's modeled at the studio many times. A lot of very unique pictures of her. And I sit still like that for 2 hours is really something. So.
Really? So this was printed, this has a laminate on it?
That's an acrylic. Yeah, that was done down in Denver. They do really good work down there. So that's an acrylic.
Yeah, it's very nice, Tom. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your award.
Really enjoyed showing it, and I was very surprised. I just walked into Rochester a few months ago, moved from Wyoming, the state of Wyoming, where the studio was. So I was quite surprised. I never expected to. You've got some very nice pictures in that gallery.
Well, we hope to see more of you.
Well, I hope so. We'll see.
Thank you very much. Thanks for showing.
You bet.
Bye. David Kotox here.
Yes, hello everyone.
Hi, Dave. Hi, this was taken in November, a couple months ago. It was a overcast day. It had rained. Went out for a walk with a close-up lens. Thought I'd catch some leaves, some color, some water droplets. And then this caught my eye. This delicate little leaf was kind of in a bed of this warmer colored green leaf. This was, I bracketed exposures, and this is the darker one. It had richer colors. I darkened up some bright spots around the edges. There was some schmutz on the leaves I cloned out, and it gave, I like the feeling of it. It's sort of an enveloping, nurturing type of, that's why I called it Fall Cradle. So
nice, very nice. So I got to ask you, did you spray this little leaf with water?
No. It had rained. There was water all over the place. I had a water bottle with me, but I didn't have to use it. If I had sprayed it, it would have, the green would have had the leaves on it.
Yeah, very nice. Contrasts are nice.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice job.
Thanks.
Joanne, are you here? We'll give people a chance to unmute themselves. Okay, we'll move on. Is Barbara here? Okay, I'm marking the folks who aren't here, so maybe they'll show up. Peter?
Yep. This was.
Sorry, hang on a sec. You just mute myself.
Don has to mute himself.
Okay, this was taken at the Genesee Country Museum just down the road. I have 3 photographs in the show. All 3 of them are about sunlight coming through a window, but this is the only one of the 3 that actually don't show the window, and that's why I picked this one to talk about. Your biggest indication that something is happening with sunlight is with the stripes that are coming in along the those benches and so forth. One of my favorite artists is Jan Vermeer, who specialized in paintings that featured sunlight coming in from windows. And so for me, that's one of the easiest ways to capture the magic of light.
Cool. Appreciate you sharing that with us.
Welcome.
Very nice photo.
Thank you.
Yeah, I definitely see the Vermeer here. I'm seeing a number of his paintings, and definitely the light is there.
Larry here?
Yeah, I'm here. This is Monument Valley. I was on the same trip that Carlos was on that he talked about earlier. And it's just a pretty straightforward photo taken with a wide angle lens down low and trying to get the snow in at that low sun angle and capturing the monuments in the background. Otherwise, a pretty straightforward photo.
Is this also Monument Valley?
Yes, it is. It's further back in. I don't know if you're familiar with the whole Navajo reservation thing, but unless you're Navajo, you're not allowed on the reservation except in a few places that they permit. So you have to hire a Navajo to take you to places.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And word of warning on that, we did that 3 different days on that tour. 2 of them we had the same guide, and he was excellent because he showed up with his Nikon DSLR. So we knew we were in the money with that.
Larson.
We did it on another one. He just took us to places we really weren't all that interested in photographically, because he really didn't know what we were looking for. So if you do care to choose guides, I say be careful with how you choose them and who you choose. Because this guy was wonderful, and he took us back in the backcountry on a 4-wheel drive truck, and it was really a great trip. Great. Too bad the pandemic started as soon as we got back.
Remember the name?
I really like the way I like the way the snow gives you, sort of pulls you into the picture. It's really nicely done.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea, to have it there really wasn't all that much snow there in this picture. By late afternoon, a lot of it starts to melt when it happens there.
But I thought it was really cool when we were there in January, just to see you're in the desert and seeing some slow, and particularly after sunrise, seeing some frost on some of the shrubbery. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, it was one of the high points of the trip was to actually go in an off season from when most people normally would go to a desert.
Oh, sorry. There we go. Thank you, Larry. Appreciate you showing it.
Nice shot, Larry.
Kathy Martin here. Luann, this is kind of the stuff that you like to do too, huh?
This image was taken at a Mark Bowie workshop up in Lake Placid just a few months ago, early October. And the light was abysmal. This is at Chapel Pond. It was raining. We were kind of gathering at the cars. It was getting dark, and the light was not good, but there was a little bit of light reflecting off the cliffs behind this behind this place. The pond is down a little bit below, and it was raining. I had my 70 to 200 lens. This was taken at 72 millimeters, 1.6 seconds f11. I played around because it was so dark. That's why I needed such a long exposure to get a good histogram. I just played around with motion blur. I was not on a tripod. And I liked this one because the birches are fairly straight. They're not ghosted like they are in some others with motion blur that went a little bit horizontally rather than vertically. One thing that I really like about this is it kind of pulls you into the back, but I really like those two trees that are kind of ghosted, that are diagonal. When I took the image of this scene without any motion blur, it's an interesting image, but it's kind of blah. So I thought, well, how can I jazz this up a little bit, and played around with a motion blur and came up with this one.
Very nice. Tones are beautiful. Thank you for sharing it with us, Kathy.
Thank you.
Margie here.
I am. So this is Neowise, and when Dick asked me which photo I wanted to talk about, I chose this one, primarily because Dick was with me when I took it. There was a group of us at Lake Ontario, and we had been shooting pretty wide with some cool benches and stuff in the foreground. And as we were packing up, I decided to throw my 85 millimeter lens on, and I shot 8 quick images of this, and then I stacked them in Starry Landscape Stacker, which cuts down on the noise quite a bit with these kinds of night photos.
Very nice. Pretty cool. So you do a lot of this astral photography?
I chased the Milky Way for about 6 months, and chased Neowise when it was here this summer.
Cool. So you've got, looks like you have a technique now.
I'm sorry?
Where did you take it?
July.
No, where?
Oh, where? This is from...
Pulteneyville, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Foreman?
B. Foreman Park. B. Foreman Park. Yep. B. Foreman Park. And the lake, which is below, you can't see it, it's blacked out, was really calm that night, which I think helped keep the wind down.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Henry here?
I don't think he is.
Okay. Is that Seattle or?
It does look like Seattle.
Yeah. Debbie here?
I thought I saw them.
Okay, well, that's all right. We can come back if people need me to.
Okay, I'm here a little slow on the unmute button.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you, partners, for putting together all this show. And I have to say, just being able to hear the other photographers and their stories behind the photos, to me, is so much richer than, being at the gallery and not having an opportunity to talk and listen, to their stories. So I like this format. I hope it can continue even post-COVID. But here we are. This photo is actually in this past September at Browns Inlet, Browns Track Inlet in Racket Lake. And it was in September. It was a cool night, so that you had the morning fog, but I'll tell you, truly, you stood there for a time going, gosh, we're socked in, nothing's going to come up. And, my goal was to try to get an image, I was trying to just, pay attention to the light and to truly focus and shoot what was in it. And it was nothing for the longest time. And, it's kind of like the COVID days, you're in a fog and it's like, okay, here we are. So, and then you had this light and this island shows up with these trees. And I said, this is magical. And so I was there, could shoot it, and, Ethereal Bog comes up because you had a moment and you had that vapor and you had that, otherworldly kind of feel to it. And then it was socked in again. So that's why this image, I wanted to present, and thank you for choosing it at Image City.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it. Is Tanya with us tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay. How about Joseph? Is he here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Believe it or not, this was taken at Webster Park. This was taken 40 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on Mamiya 645 J-Buy. It was a 120 film. When I had it printed, they kept on trying to get the light tone for the boys, so it washed everything out. So I printed it myself because that's not what I saw. It was a silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a 1 to 2 second exposure. What I really liked about it too is that the fishing pole didn't. You can see the fishing pole, and there's like a little light on the
like a radio.
Not a radio. It's actually his fishing tackle box.
Oh, so some light reflecting off.
Yeah. So I was racing down here because it looked like a storm just went through. So you really don't. I remember this quite vividly, that there was a one side of the sky was like this and the other side was darker, and it was just really weird how it worked, but you didn't see that. And I just saw this, and I made the boy stood there and says, just don't move. And you can actually see where his nose is. He actually moved just a hair because his nose he moved just a little bit, but
no, I think the nose is important. I think that worked out really well for you.
Yeah. And it never got photoshopped or anything like that. It was just, this is what I saw, and it's been hanging on my wall for a while. After I printed it, I had all these people want to buy it. I never sold any of it, and I just had it on my wall. And then someone said, "Why don't you put this in the show?" And here it is.
Good. It's really cool. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
So this might look familiar to the very first slide we have, because this is the one that we chose from Sandy to make the card out of. Sandy, you want to talk about this?
Fortunately, I don't think she's here.
Oh, that's too bad. It's kind of neat. This building, I've always think of it as black and white, but the way she caught this with the sun reflecting off of it, it gave it the blue hue. I think that's pretty cool.
It's hard to get a picture without all the cars in front of it too.
Exactly.
It's a nice perspective.
Yep. Pretty neat. Gary Page here? Well, that means that this is Gary. He's shown at the gallery quite a few times. He travels a lot and gets some pretty cool pictures. This is his wife Myrna's picture of the Maasai. I like the color comparison here, contrast here. It's pretty cool. And I don't know what that is in his or her his hand.
Binoculars. I think so. Yeah.
Okay, Martha.
Yeah, I'm here.
Tell us what you did with this.
I took this at the Brickyard Trail, which is a little walking trail in Brighton. And it was one of those mornings where it snowed and it was really windy and it was that wet, sticky kind of snow and it stuck to every tree trunk. And when I took the picture, when I looked at it on my computer, I thought it looked like a pen and ink drawing.
Mm-hmm.
So basically I just increased the contrast a little bit and I didn't do much else to it. I changed it to black and white because it was pretty much black and white anyway.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's one of my favorite things to take photos of is new snow.
You haven't had much this year.
No, we haven't had any this year.
Thank you, Martha. I think that's a cool picture. It does look like a pen and ink, a pencil drawing.
It does.
Thank you.
Pretty cool. So is Avi here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, cool. This is Avi's self-portrait.
Yeah.
I really like it. I started laughing as soon as I saw this photo. Tell us about
Thank
it.
you.
How did
Yes, yeah. So it was. This was taken back in May, and just I know some of you, some are familiar faces. Hi, and for all the new faces, my name is Avi, and I'm from Rochester, and primarily I'm a circus performer. I used to tour with Cirque du Soleil and travel around the world with them, and most of my photography is dance and circus related. I have a couple of their images of the show, and they're all that style stuff. And due to the pandemic, I basically lost all my work, and I'm also autoimmune compromised. And so my doctor told me I needed to really be careful with COVID and everything. So I was basically just staying in my apartment by myself all the time with no work. And around May, I started trying to just challenge myself to create sort of visual representations of a lot of the feelings I was seeing through friends on the internet and just myself going through. And one of them was just the hand sanitizer. I sketched up all these different concepts with masks and whatnot. And so this has, I think, I only had 2 bottles of hand sanitizer because I think at the time, I'm sure a lot of you experienced this as well, it was sold out everywhere. So I only had like 2 or 3 bottles I could find at Wegmans. And then I painstakingly, this is all done by myself. I had a remote shutter in a Ziploc bag sitting in the tub so it wouldn't get fried. And then I would move the bottles, take a photo, move the bottles, take a photo. And so it probably took about 3 hours to capture all of these, and several more hours to sort of stitch it all together. But I sort of wanted this sort of dark comedy of the sort of anxiety of living with an autoimmune disorder in this age. And sort of like over preparing, like almost washing yourself in hand sanitizer. And yeah, this was shot on my Canon camera. Unfortunately, I had to sell it shortly after this to cover rent due to the lack of work and everything. But yeah, I think I was shot at 16 millimeters. I have 11 to 16. Yeah. But yeah, if you check out the other work I do in the gallery, or I can put a link in the comments for the rest of the stuff, it's like completely different than this. So this was a nice little challenge for sure.
Well, Avi, thank you for the story. My comment at the beginning that it was funny. I guess that your dark comedy is right. And I'm sorry that you had to go through all what you've been going through and still going through.
Yeah. It's okay. Sorry, did someone have a question?
Well, yeah, I'll make a comment. I don't know if it was fortunate or you did it on purpose, but it's also funny that the toilet paper roll is kind of low.
Oh yeah. That was, I think that was just fortune, actually. That's a great eye, yeah. Yeah, I ended up just taking where the shampoo bottles are, taking all those out and photoshopping even more bottles up there. I was just trying to give the sense of just all this, the ridiculousness of trying to fill up a tub with little hand sanitizer bottles.
It is.
Thanks,
Yep.
Carl. Yeah.
It's great. Thank you for sharing your story and your photo.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm honored that they got into the gallery.
Is Nancy here?
Yes, here I am.
Tell us about this one, Nancy. Pretty colorful.
Well, yes, I should say. It was taken in Devil's Bathtub in Mendon Ponds Park. And this is the second year I've gone there in the fall because the combination of the water and the reflection of the colored leaves is just wonderful. But on the day that I was there, it was very calm. So I was getting very straightforward reflection pictures. And all of a sudden the breeze came up and the water rippled. And I said, wow, I really like that. And fortunately, it came out very nicely. I didn't have to do a lot to it. I just increased the saturation and the vibrance a little bit. And there were a few little, well, I'll call them little black foreign objects that were in the picture. So I think I used the healing brush to remove those. But I left the little blue, whatever they were, leaves perhaps. And I just thought, this really is like watercolors.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
It's abstractish, but it has enough in it that I can kind of tell what it is. I wouldn't have guessed Devil's Bathtub. I didn't think you get that much light in there.
Yeah. It's the second year I've gone there, and you can't go too close to either dawn or sunset, obviously, but it gets wonderful color.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Rosalind here?
I think she is.
Dramatic lighting.
Rosalind's not here. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
Rosalind,
wait,
say it, Dick.
she's here.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay, I don't even call myself a photographer. Actually, I call myself an artist who uses photographs because basically the room, that picture was taken, maybe 40 years ago. It was our first, my husband and I went to Europe for the first time, and we took this long tour for the whole summer. He had just started being a teacher. He was a math professor, and he had finally given in and was hired by a college in New Jersey. And this was our first summer off, so we wandered around Europe. And the room was some little town outside Cologne. We were in Cologne, Germany for a couple of days, and I always thought I would try to wander look for empty rooms for years. And the scene outside is what I could see from the apartment we lived in, the condo we lived in Hoboken, New Jersey, and before I moved up to Rochester 5 years ago. And that's the sun. We were looking at the east, but the sun came over our apartment building, and would light up Manhattan at just about dinner hour. And I kept snapping pictures of it, and then so one day I decided to put them together, and it was. I really miss it because I love being able to see Manhattan. I also love being able to run around Manhattan, which maybe at this age, I can't do it anyway. So, but it was a wonderful experience being there. We were in Hoboken for about over 30 years. And when we would come back, I always took pictures. I mean, the very first camera I had actually was a Polaroid. And then I went on, because I had other cameras when I was much younger. But, and then I finally, when the digital cameras came out, I just love it. And of course I use a lot of Photoshop. I got to know a lot of photographers in Hoboken, much younger than me. And one of them said, why don't you use Photoshop? And I had no idea what they were talking about. And he took it upon himself to teach me, got me a copy of Photoshop. And he spent a number of times, helping me get it. And I had no problem because I understood layers very easily because I had done a lot of commercial work where I had to separate colors and both screen printing and so forth. So when I started to print, it was very easy for me to separate images or colors or so forth. And so this is my my favorite view of Manhattan.
Thank you, Rosalind. You know, one of the hardest things for people to get with Photoshop is layers. So I'm glad you picked it up so easily. Once you get it, it seems so simple, but for some reason, a lot of people struggle with the concept. But a nice photo. You still have a gallery over in Anderson Artist?
No, I've been in the Sibley building for a few years now.
Okay.
But however, because of the COVID and I decided I don't know when I'm going to be able to open the studio to people. So I'm now in a second floor studio that's smaller, and it's not open to the public except by appointment.
Well, as we start to clear out COVID, you need to come back and show your work at Image City again.
I'm intending to. I started a new series that I intend to offer to you.
Good, thanks. Great to see you soon.
I love your gallery, and I have to say, every one of you, every partner, has been very supportive of me since the day I moved up here.
Thank you, Rosalind.
Dick, can you send Betsy the link?
Yeah.
Is Ann here? Thank you, Rosalind.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, hi. This was taken probably March year.
Sorry, we lost you for a sec. You want to repeat what you just said?
So that's why I have several pictures, but that's why I chose this one, because it's very significant to me that a week later the world shut down. And you know, that I was there and able to capture it. And I just wandered the streets. It sounds bad, but I wandered the streets for a couple hours that night. And it's one of my favorite cities. One small street like this.
It's a great little street shot.
Just a very typical scene.
Yeah, I like the light coming off the brick road.
Yeah, the light is just fantastic. And it was a 2 hour, I believe. I shot this with my cell phone.
Really?
No, it really is. The best camera you have is the one you have with you.
That's for sure. And I'm sorry, but it looks like I put 3 N's in your name. Sorry about that. My proofreader missed it as well.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I think I have a Google Pixel 3. I don't have an iPhone. And I think I put this in the night sight. You know, so, and I think I actually toned it down a little bit. The color was vibrant for me. And I did bring it into Topaz Gigapixel. Size it.
And I'm sorry, but your sound goes in and out. It starts out loud and it fades out really quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having trouble with the sound on my computer. Is that any better?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay, I guess I have to get closer to the mic. No, I just didn't do a lot of processing. Brought it into Topaz Gigapixel just to resize it and you know, keep the clarity. But it's just, you know, it's just a very typical scene of Seville. And I used to travel a lot. So it just, I tried to capture typical scenes of wherever I am as much as the iconic scenes.
Yep. It's very nice. Thank you for sharing it with us. Michael Shoemaker here. Michael, Deb Teska? Either one are here? That's too bad.
Well,
Here, you're here.
Oh,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Hey, you must have two devices there at the same time
We
going?
do, yeah. We've had some technical problems.
You have to shut one of them off. At least
Okay,
the
so
sound.
can you hear me now?
Perfectly.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Michael.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
He might not be able to hear us because he shut off the other one.
Hello? Bring the phone here, I think.
You may need to give him a thumbs up, Don.
Okay.
Yeah, except I don't think he can see me.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. If we all put a thumbs up, then he'll see one of us. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I see Don. Okay. So this is an image. Can you hear me now? Yes? Thumbs up?
Still hear you.
Okay, so this is an image of milkweed pod going to seed. Taken this fall, we took a run down to Montezuma Wildlife Refuge, and right near the Visitors Center is a nice grove of hundreds, if not thousands, of milkweeds. And so, I took, made several or dozens of images, and this is the one that I really, really spoke to me as, had, the pods, it had the seeds, the floss, just, a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it does.
So just like and it was a cloudy day, so it really, low contrast, pretty much of a straight shot. It's a crop frame Nikon camera on a monopod, I think. So I think, yeah, it turned out pretty nice, I thought.
So good job. Can you hear me, Michael?
I can, yes.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, nice work. We appreciate your work. And you guys have been good exhibitors at our gallery, and I understand that you signed up for another show in the near future. So
Yes.
we're looking forward to seeing you again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yep.
All right, my turn.
Yep.
This is what I would call a COVID image because I couldn't get to see my daughter because she was in New York City and there was no way I was going to go down there. We met in Cooperstown in July at Beaver Valley Campground, and it was this beautiful little spot. As soon as we got there, the cameras were out, and we walked over and found this beautiful swampy area. And I had my infrared camera, my 18-55 Nikon lens, just my 32, it's a D3200. And I shot so many pictures of the area around there with my infrared. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
That looks cool. Why is it with infrared that the clouds still look like clouds? Because they're white?
Yeah, because they're white. Anything that's white is still going to come up white.
Yeah, okay.
One of the things I love about infrared is that, to me, it really, because everything green comes out white, it can just really pop the composition.
Yeah.
Those trees that are in the background, the way that flows over to the edge, and then all those weeds that are in the foreground. I don't know. It's my new favorite thing.
I think it's really interesting. I like the infrared quality of the texture of the grass and the trees, and contrasting with the cloud, which is also white but soft.
Yes, and that is the other thing. It really does wonderful things to the sky. So you say something about the clouds, but it really does some wonderful things to the sky.
Yeah, pretty cool. Well, thank you for sharing it.
And thank you guys for having such great shows. I've learned so much since we got to show there. I have a reason. Mike and I have reasons to print photographs. It's because we have a place to show them, and we have a place to go to get ideas, because all of the photographers that you have such different ideas. So we really appreciate the hard work you guys do and that you've done to keep this open. And I love getting to hear from everybody. So I'm hoping that afterwards, whether it's in person or it's online, I hope we keep up with these.
Yeah, we probably will. I think these virtual receptions they're relatively easy to do. And it adds another dimension, so we'll probably keep on doing it.
Yay.
Thanks for the feedback.
Thanks, Ted.
Lonnie around?
I'm here.
Good. Tell us about this one, Lonnie. Where was this?
This is actually Sodas Point.
Really?
We rented a cottage on Sodas Point in September, and I just happened to walk out early one morning and saw all the misty fog, and I thought that was really cool. And then the sun started coming through, and you know, it was so cool.
So I'm used to seeing that lighthouse from the other side, so I'm kind of wondering where you are.
So if you go down the main drag in Sodas where all the bars and stuff are and keep going out, there's a bunch of little cottages.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so we rented one of those cottages facing Lake Ontario.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then I did have to take out one of those big markers that were in there because it just drew your eye to that and not the rest of the image.
Yeah. You know, I find it interesting how photographers like to point out the things that they took out and changed and and what they did to the colors and all that kind of stuff. You're supposed to keep those secret, guys. Don't tell people. Thank you, Lonnie.
Yep.
Mr. Tryon. I know Steve's around.
Might be here.
There he is.
Yeah. You spelled my name with a PH.
Hey, I'm only taking. Let me just see something.
Oh
Sorry,
well.
Steve. Apologize.
Yes. Well, a couple of things for those who know me or who don't know me. I almost always shoot black and white. But every autumn, I'll run a couple of rolls of color film through my cameras. Just because you can't, in autumn, it is about the color. So if anybody can see the little, my little screen here, this is the camera I took it with. It's a 6x6 pinhole camera, 120 film. Because the other thing about me is I have been a geek, computer and network geek, for most of my 70 years. So shooting no electronics cameras is rebellion, fun, relief, you name it. But this is, I believe this is Mendon Ponds. I've only seen that spot once, so I'm not sure that I'm placing it correctly. But you know, it was with the tripod, with the pinhole camera, Portra 400, I believe, developed by Scott. Well, I sent it to Scott Photo, so actually Prowse developed it. And
Scott Photos give you slides, or do they give you prints?
I get scans back from them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you know, I get the negatives back, but for colors, sometimes they get a better scan than I do.
Okay.
So,
How
yeah,
long
go ahead.
How long an exposure is it with the pinhole camera?
I'm sorry?
How long an exposure is it with a pinhole?
Oh, with 400 speed film, this is and relatively bright, a second or two.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if I'm shooting black and white, I often have a filter in front of it just to slow it down. That way I can get a good range out of 400 speed film. But this is a relatively new camera for me, so I am figuring out as I go along. The effective focal length is just over 20 millimeters. So for medium format, it's pretty wide, and you get a lot of exploding out toward the edges, and and it's much darker toward the edges. I did not add any vignetting to this. But it's, the pinhole sees things differently. And sometimes that can be really cool. Sometimes the pinhole shots are just disastrous, but this one, it printed awfully dark, but this one worked out well. I mean, everything on, since I don't usually shoot color, it's a camera that I haven't used as much. So this whole roll was experimental. But since I almost always display black and white at the gallery, I decided to send in color shots for this particular show. And so there it is. And I think I titled it just, that which remains, because that's all there is left of that building.
You think that's in Mendon, huh? I might have to ask you to think about that a little harder. I might like to go out and shoot that myself. But
Should they get on?
Sorry?
I didn't hear your question.
Oh, I said I'd like to talk to you at another time and find out exactly where that is, because I'd like to go and shoot it myself.
Yeah. I have to go back and find out where it exactly is.
Yeah. You'll remember. Thank you for sharing it with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Michelle here?
I don't think she is, no.
Okay. You guys may have seen this outside of the mag. I've seen several people do this. I think it's pretty cool. She's done it a little bit differently, though. I don't know if I've ever seen that much outside that column being lit like that. This is neat.
Wait, can you give a brief explanation?
Oh, I've never taken this picture or been where it is, but maybe somebody who's been to the art gallery can tell us about that.
Yeah, it's the Memorial Art Gallery, and they have lights inside, and the words around the cylinders, there's two. They stand out in front of what used to be the University of Rochester Women's College, I think. But they're all have to do with names and things that are associated with Rochester, New York.
And they get projected onto the wall, Dick?
They're projected on the ground. That's the cement floor, the ground in which they stand on, and the walls and along the grass. It's actually pretty cool in all seasons.
It looks really cool in the snow too.
Yeah.
I've seen a few pictures. I think this is one of the better pictures I've seen of it.
Yeah. Cool. You can see everything in the column is backwards, but it shows obviously correctly. You can read it. Some of the words on
the projection. Pretty neat. Stephanie, are you here?
I am, yeah, thank you.
Great. But Stephanie got the, this was the photo, I think there were 3 of these, right?
2 of them got in, yeah.
All right, I'm anxious to hear the story because Lumiere Photo thought a lot about this one, and she got the award from them. They were the sponsors of the show.
Yeah, so thank you to the gallery partners for accepting my pieces, and thank you to Lumiere for choosing my piece. So there were 2 pieces that are in, and this one is called They Won't Let Me Do Anything. And so about a year ago, I decided to put together kind of a more fine art series and sort of explore different narratives and kind of create different narratives, which is something I've done in my work in the past. I often try to deal with memory or family or travel, kind of themes like that, which, based on what I've seen tonight, many of you explore the same kinds of themes. So I've been collecting vintage images, vintage postcards, and began scanning them together and digitally collaging them in Photoshop, along with some of my own images or some appropriated images. The other piece that is in the show, there's some scanned wallpaper that's in there. And this basically is this girl at camp, and there's like a little log cabin behind her that it's hard to see. And I just love her attitude. I love the Band-Aid on the knee. I love the popped hip, and the text that the title comes from the text in the image from the postcard. And so my hope by, kind of creating these stories is that the viewer starts to wonder, who they are and where they are and how does the text relate. And my hope is that as a viewer, you get up nice and close and kind of read things and start to form your own stories about who the people in the photos are. Or, the other image that's in the show is a vintage photo of a brother and sister opening presents under a Christmas tree. And so they're both kind of playing with their toys, and there's just a great sense of nostalgia. So I just hope that, when the viewer looks at these images, maybe it reminds them of something in their childhood or something that they've experienced. So yeah, that's just a little bit about the series itself. Basically, I collage them, print them on a transparency, and then expose them on cyanotype paper using a UV light box. So they are cyanotype prints. They're all sort of one of a kind. This one was the one that had the least amount of scratches and hair and dust and whatnot on it. But yeah, so that's a little bit about the series. The size of this one, I think, is 11 by 14. Yeah, so that's a little bit about my work.
I was going to ask you about the tonality, but you've explained that. I think it's great. I like these a lot. They're very creative.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I hope to maybe show some more in the gallery in the future.
Good. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Fred here?
Yep, I'm here. Okay, so this was, obviously my wife and I were on a tour. I had a meeting in New York, in Long Island, and we had the evening off, and we were able to take a tour, a boat tour that took us around the outside Long Island down through into the Hudson Bay to see New York City and the Statue of Liberty. And this was, I like bridges. I've always liked bridges. Brooklyn Bridge is one of my favorite. I've taken several shots of that. And I thought it was kind of an interesting way to see the Brooklyn Bridge, but the shot most people see is of New York City. So I kind of got them both. I shot in color. And my personal challenge, my own challenge to myself was to put it into black and white and to experiment how black and white, how dark to make it or how dark not to make it. And so I had several versions of this, and I like this one the best.
This one
I did have a, it was a mirrorless Sony. So that's another thing. And the other challenge I had was the boat was moving continually. So I couldn't put it in manual, and the focus kept changing because the boat was going at quite a clip because they had to get down to the Statue of Liberty in time for the beautiful sunset.
What's interesting is that the sky is striated and it almost looks like a long exposure, but you've explained that you're on a boat that's moving fast, so it couldn't have been a long exposure.
Oh, correct. Yeah, absolutely not. Exposure is 1/20th of a second.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the sky is striated, especially on that right-hand side. I think it's great. I like how dark it is.
Well, thank you.
It's really nice. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yep.
Bob here?
I'm here.
Tell us, Bob, what's this?
This is a community theater in Franklin, Pennsylvania, which is over in the western part of the state, over in oil country. And I was only there for one night and went out in the evening with a camera, just shooting things that I like to look at. And I saw this theater and juxtaposed this old sort of 40s, maybe 50s building with the more modern vehicles in front. The only light, because you can see the marquee is not lit, they didn't seem to have a production that night. So the only light is from these sodium vapor lamps. And if you looked at this as a color image, it was just painted with yellow.
Yeah, right.
And that didn't work. So I started experimenting with black and white, and I did the basic tonal adjustments in Lightroom and then moved it over to Silvery FX Pro, added some structure to it, and this is the result. It was shot handheld with a Canon camera. It's ISO 6400 and I think an 80th of a second.
Very nice. Interesting.
Thank you.
I like the contrast between the 50s style kind of building with newer vehicles in front of it. It's kind of cool.
Right, right. Funny enough, last year I had another picture of a theater in Magic of Light just by coincidence.
How about that?
Yeah.
Has to be your theme.
Maybe not. We'll try something different next time.
Okay. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Is Andy here?
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
I have to tell you, this is I like this shot a lot because I like black and white. I like contrast, and I like all the geometry about this thing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, for a living, I'm a mechanical engineer, so I tend to like strong geometry and angles and very graphically strong images. The story behind this is I recently moved into a new apartment, and I started noticing that each day around 4 o'clock, the sun would line up, the blinds were drawn but open a little, and these fantastic stripes would go across the wall. And I have a little table. I was doing still life, different objects in the stripes, which of course makes amazing contours and everything. But then I got rid of the table and just put my IKEA desk chair in the light. And to be honest, I actually adjusted the opening of the blinds a little to try and really sharpen the striation, the black and white. Yeah. And I just thought it was interesting to have the very linear with the the holes in the chair.
Yeah.
And at first, it was physically impossible to get rid of the shadow of the chair. But then I thought that's actually very dramatic, kind of breaks up the monotony. Otherwise, it might be a little too regular. Yeah.
No, this is all about texture and shape and form, and it's a perfect subject for black and white. It's really nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Like
I know Bob, I think Welch mentioned the silver effects, and that's what I use, even though it's a white chair. The wall was yellow, and I use the silver effects to get a higher contrast black and white.
Well done.
Anyway, I'm glad you like it. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
So finally, when your last name ends with a Z, you get to be last or first, depending on whether people go with how they do the alphabet. So this is a combination project of Marcia and Michael's. Why don't you guys tell us about this? Because this is not the photograph. They were here earlier. I know they're around. I hope they're around.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
This is actually meant to show the process of the photograph. We take photos of what Marcia has defined as organic collage. And these are, in a sense, a still life of compositions that we build from materials in our backyard garden. And this one is, we do a number of techniques. I started with something that's called celestial vegetables. So this particular one is a picture actually of a patty pan squash with peppers on a background of hostas. And in fact, we're in our studio here above White House, and you can see behind me what I call the Great Wall of Celestial Vegetables. Marcia joined the studio in 2018. I mean, she joined our marriage in 1989, but didn't get involved with this until then. And she brought this technique called pedal pointillism. We traveled a lot of art shows. Now you can put up the other frame here, which is actually, so this is how we cropped it. And this is how it is in the show. It's based on, Marcia, you have a logo of dahlias. There's some rosemary in here, some lettuce leaves. We view this kind of as a performance art in the sense that we start these compositions this time of year when we get a lot of seed catalogs from across the world. We choose varieties based on our interest in color and form and pattern, and then you kind of dream about it and go out in the backyard, pull out a table and start putting things together. Now, we take inspiration, in fact, from Rochester's history. I view Rochester as having been an image city before there was photography. And that is because it was not so well known. It was one of the 19th century centers in the new world of botanic illustration, and was well known for its chromolithographs. And this was in support of its nurseries and also its seed companies. So, I mean, this is an example of some of the art, and there are some amazing works that were done as chromolithographs, paintings, sometimes as one-off color.
It's the opening of a photography art show that they're in.
So we took that and we started with
Yeah.
portraits of vegetables and led to this kind of unique art form. And Marcia's created a lot of these landscapes. We have a lot of abstract stuff. We have some interesting compositions where she has done the landscape and I've gone up in the sky and done a star based on a lot of vegetables. I mean, we also consider this commentary on the urban gardening phenomena because we live in a city. We have a relatively, for the city, a big backyard. We've got lots of things growing there in containers and so forth. In fact, I'm going to put a link in here to a movie because I'm also a filmmaker and make a lot of short movies on this art. There's sculptural aspects to it, so I often do what I call sideways views or flyovers of our artwork. And the one I'm going to put in here, it's a short film, it's called Making of a Star, and it will show us from beginning to end, it's a time lapse of us creating one of our works of art.
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to
Don,
stop.
I think Sarah is the only one that we need to go back to.
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so I can get to the right spot easily. While I'm doing that, you can see at the bottom of your screen, there's a button for chat. And if you click on that, you can, hang on a second, I'm trying to do two things at the same time. I'm not good at it. If you click on that, you can save the chat. And then you can get all the stuff that people would probably be putting in there.
If you open your chat, there's 3 dots on the bottom. Just open that. That gives you more options, and one of them is to save. I think it saves to your desktop.
Okay, hang on. Sarah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm new here too, and you just went from vegetables to dogs.
It's okay.
So I have a background in dogs, and I spent my adult life basically competing. One of the competitions I used to partake in is this dock dog jumping. And this was done in Hamburg, New York about 2 years ago. So I no longer compete, and I show up with a camera instead. I have a Sony with the iFocus, and I purposely came here to see if the iFocus, the animal iFocus, would work on the most demanding of situations with the dog running right at the camera.
So did you use continuous focus?
Yes.
Okay.
And you know how Sony has, and some of the other cameras are coming forward with it, the iFocus on animal iFocus?
Right.
Yeah. So I just wanted to figure it out. I initially started to focus back when the handler was starting the dog, and I wasn't getting a lot of success. So I turned it to the edge of the dock, and then I popped the lens up, and then I hit 80% every time. So, and this is one of the images. 70 to 200, 2.8 to f4, somewhere around there. Low ISO 200, and 2,000 to 4,000, I'd say, on the shutter. So I wanted, some of the dogs were wet. This isn't, I don't think, one of them that was wet, and I like to catch the water droplets coming off the dogs. My big surprise on this was the owners behind the dog.
Yeah.
They were hysterical. This one is actually just fun to look at, but some of the other ones were just a stitch. So I wasn't able to go back this year, but I plan on returning. This is the speed jump where the dogs will come directly at you instead of going high or going just really far out, because they'll have to arc up if they go far out. So for the speed jump, they just come directly at you.
Cool.
And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you for sharing this. Hey, I saw
love how you
one
got
of
the
yours.
American.
Yeah, the flags up there. It's cool.
Yep.
One of your dog pictures was of a Doberman, I think, wasn't it?
Actually, she's right here. Pex, where are you?
Forget
She's
the
not a Doberman. No, she's a Manchester Terrier. Pex.
I don't know if we'll see her or not. I'm going to stop sharing this.
Pex. Oh, she's all worried. She won't come. But
That's
she's
okay.
9 pounds.
Oh, okay.
She's not a Doberman.
You did it in the photo. You can't tell in the picture from the size.
No, you can't.
Hey, everybody! Thanks so much for joining us. I think this turned out really well. I'm pleased everybody could be polite and could talk about their photographs, and we at Image City really appreciate you doing it and showing up with us.
This has been a great show, and you guys had some wonderful photographs. Really enjoyed working with you, and we got another week plus to go, so I'll send you an email about collection. We're going to do it a little bit differently, but I'll send you an email about that. We'll talk about that later. Thank you all for participating tonight. I hope you got something out of it and enjoyed it.
Don't forget to save the chat before I shut it down.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you.